Minister Tau, you would have seen our program. This is a PGM day. We are trying to have the context of changing world and South Africa's space in it, but from a PGM's point of view. I deliberately arranged for you guys to mess up the GNU. I asked Trump to hold back on his madness until yesterday, so that today, when we talk, we can pick our chaos. Do we want to talk about the new liberation world, or we want to talk about you guys and your internal squabbles with the other guys? But talk to us about the DTIC policy. You've got a fantastic topic, and we're looking forward to hear your insights. Ladies, gentlemen, Minister Parks Tau. And you have to give me time for questions at the end. I know you're a very experienced politician, but there has to be Q&A.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon. We were preparing for 3 key speeches today. So it's one of those days where you're making speeches. The first was at the Gauteng Investment Conference. The second is here. And the third is we're meeting with the American Chamber of Commerce a bit later.
Good luck. This will be the easy one.
So by yesterday, we kind of thought, okay, we need to readjust our speeches. We need to adapt messaging, taking into account contemporary developments, but also ensure that we're able to communicate with everybody what certainly are challenges, but also opportunities. So it's the sort of times that we need to think about how we turn the lemon into lemonade. And there certainly are opportunities to turn the lemon into lemonade. And PGMs fit snugly into that opportunity to turn this lemon into lemonade. This is when my team gets anxious that I might not be reading the text as we agreed overnight, because we changed it overnight to what we were going to originally say. So let me reassure them I am going to read what we agreed to. But I thought it's important to preface my statements with that. Also to say that there is a collective responsibility on all of us as South Africans to speak in one voice, to hunt as a pack, to understand that the situation as it is evolving is such that it is as unpredictable as the next day. You don't know what will come out. We sat and waited for the 2nd of April. Many people are asking us, so why is the president not sending you guys to go to the US? I said, well, we're still waiting for a few things. One of the things we were waiting for was the 2nd of April, because we knew that the US is going to make a set of announcements on tariffs on the 2nd of April. Therefore, it is important that we assimilate what the US has presented, both to us and to the rest of the world, and to be able to then develop a response to that, taking into account what that reality is. Otherwise, we would have gone to the US, came back, and things would have changed and would have had to catch a flight back to the US this week or next week to try and engage on what is a new set of circumstances. So allow me to greet everybody, captains of industry, the chairperson, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to stand before you today on the PGM Day, now in its 8th year, as we collectively seek to chart a bold course for South Africa's future. As we stand on the confluence of leveraging our rich mineral endowments and maximizing emerging global energy trends, this is a moment that calls for innovation, collaboration, and decisive action. Our discussions this morning center on 3 interlinked messages, and there is the strategic importance of our PGMs, the need to adapt to a shifting global paradigm, and the transformative potential of green hydrogen to unlock massive economic growth. our discussions, the machine gave up on me at some point. I'm sure that you will agree that South Africa is uniquely blessed and should make the best use of its natural endowments. As you know, our bushveld igneous complex holds over 80% of the world's known reserves of PGMs, a treasure that has long been the backbone of our mining and manufacturing sectors. For decades, PGMs such as platinum, rhodium, and palladium have fueled our automotive and industrial processes, supporting a thriving midstream and downstream ecosystem. According to NAMSA, the Automotive Business Council, during the period 2018 to 2022, we have exported between 14.1 to 23.9 billion rands worth of catalytic converters to the European Union and the United Kingdom in the main, making these the largest automotive component exports from South Africa. And despite the current turmoil in global trade, these still remain reliable trading partners. Yet the landscape is evolving. While our traditional markets, particularly catalytic converters, have underpinned our economic success, global shifts towards stringent environmental policies are changing demand patterns. Therefore, to secure our future, we must not only build on our legacy, but also innovate new value chains that leverage our natural resources. Ladies and gentlemen, in the wake of the Paris Agreement and the rigorous environmental standards set by our international partners, the old models of industrial growth are giving way to cleaner and sustainable technologies. The decline of conventional catalytic converter demand is a stark signal that we must diversify our approach. Related to PGMs, the domestic chrome value chain has been facing major headwinds occasioned by rising energy costs and reduced chrome ore prices. This is presenting an existential threat to the ferrochrome industry, and to resolve these challenges, we have established a working group with industry to improve the operating environment for long-term sustainability of the ferrochrome industry. The geopolitical tensions between the US and China are creating a climate of uncertainty that will force stainless steel industry to adapt to a more complex and potentially less efficient global trading environment. I urge industry to be alive to these developments and swiftly position itself for opportunities that may arise. Interestingly, the new tariff structure exempts some of South Africa's metal exports to the US. This includes manganese, uranium, chrome, and coal. This includes the scrap of these materials and stainless steel scrap. This tells us that the tariffs are more targeted than what we had initially assumed. This global shift challenges us to reimagine how we harness our resources. It is not a time for retreat, but for reinvention. A call to pivot from technologies of the past to those of the future. We have the unique opportunity to transform challenges into avenues for growth by investing in alternative applications for our PGMs, in particular emerging clean energy technologies. Before we slept last night, we were all hit with another wave of news emerging from the White House. The announcement of a 30% tariff on all exports from South Africa has an acute impact on this sector, amongst others. If we are to overcome what is certain to be a tumultuous 4 years ahead, we have to put our heads together and drive a solutions-oriented agenda. Rising global tensions offer South Africa an opportunity to become an anchor in shifting global supply chains. Our country's strategic location geographically, our mature capital markets, and our significant industrial base make for an attractive investment proposition as our global partners look for stability and security of supply. At the same time, we must take advantage of some of the paradoxes that are inherent in the current global disjuncture. The lag in technological capability of Western Europe and the USA in electric vehicles, as well as the continued investment in hybrid vehicles, creates an opportunity to harness these markets in parallel with investing in innovation for a different energy future. The complexities of the transition provide space for innovation, which we must use with existing resources as we transition to new solutions. Notwithstanding some of the global trade winds, our PGM resources may just be the critical leverage in some of the trade discussions that will emerge out of the current turmoil. Our recent trip to Japan, led by the Deputy President, has demonstrated this exact point. In Japan, we found reliable and respectful partners that are willing to work with us to expand our collaborative areas in developing green hydrogen and its associated value chains. Dear colleagues, recognized as a catalytic sector that can unlock massive economic growth, green hydrogen is central to the transition to net zero energy systems. With South Africa's vast renewable energy resources, land, wind, solar, and hydropower, and our global concentration of PGMs, we have a strategic advantage to become a global producer of green hydrogen. This also includes drawing lessons in how some of the cost drivers have hindered the pace of development of the green hydrogen economy in other countries. At the heart of this revolution is our green hydrogen commercialization strategy, which rests on the following critical elements. One, the prioritization of exports. We will target the export of green hydrogen and green chemicals by leveraging Fischer-Tropsch's technology, ensuring that our resources drive international market leadership. In addition, we are working on designating the Boegoebaai SEZ in the Northern Cape to facilitate exports to the global market, building a regional value chain with our neighbor Namibia. And maybe to pause briefly here and to reflect on our discussions recently at the South Africa-European Union Summit. At this summit, we agreed on what in many ways was a historic declaration. Not only did the EU commit to invest in South Africa, it made a number of important statements. The first is an agreement to work on a clean trade and investment partnership, a partnership premised on an agenda of decarbonization, coupled with the reality that this should not be on the basis of a pit to port approach. It should be that, in fact, it is anchored by industrial investments by European companies in South Africa as the basis of this trade agreement going forward. And that on its own is significant to the extent that it is not just about extracting and taking out of the country. It is an agreement based on a commitment to work with us on our industrialization efforts and beneficiating our own minerals. But we're also able to leverage from there a commitment by the EU that, in fact, the initiatives around green aviation fuel as championed by Sasol constitute part of the agreement. A commitment that says, yes, we will look at possible concessions with South Africa to enable industrialization that happens in South Africa and enable what becomes in reality this just energy transition. because it is a transition that acknowledges that in fact we have the technological capability, but have not transitioned to the levels of clean production cycles that would meet EU standards, but that as part of the transition, we can factor in considerations of these technological developments and opportunities for South Africa. So for us, it is a clear demonstration of an appetite by trading partners to rethink the way in which they've interfaced with us from the point of view of minerals and minerals beneficiation. Secondly, it's about focusing on stimulating domestic markets. By developing projects along the entire value chain, we aim to stimulate local demand and build robust domestic markets for green hydrogen. And thirdly, about developing local industrial capability, our focus includes ramping up production of fuel cells, electrolyzers, and ammonia, capitalizing on our PGMs resources to build a competitive industrial base. Fourth is about securing financing, and a concerted effort will be made to crowd in and secure financing and investment to support these transformative initiatives. The recent SA-EU summit, as I indicated, is testament to this, with a commitment of an investment close to 100 billion rand. And five, proactive socio-economic development. We are committed to maximizing the development impact by enhancing skills, promoting economic development, and ensuring social inclusion. Additionally, our vision encompasses several key opportunities. By converting existing industries and energy grids to use green hydrogen as a power source, we can create a foundation for a greener economy. Research from the IDC and our department indicates that if we are to avert the cataclysmic economic decline in the sector, we have to put in place support mechanisms for fuel cell technology and its associated manufacturing opportunities. Producing hydrogen fuel cells and related technologies will facilitate the conversion of heavy vehicle fleets, including buses and potentially minibus taxis, into cleaner, more efficient modes of transport. At the same time, mass-producing green hydrogen for export promises significant revenue while also benefiting domestic consumption. Moreover, the production of ammonia for the food industry further diversifies our portfolio, reinforcing South Africa's role as a leader in the green hydrogen revolution. By aligning our policies with the Hydrogen Society Roadmap and the Green Hydrogen Commercialization Strategy, we're not just preparing for the future, but we are defining this future. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let us reaffirm our commitment to driving South Africa's industrial transformation through three interlinked strategies. First, we will leverage our PGM's legacy by building on our natural resource advantage to support both current and emerging industrial applications. Second, we will adapt to global green imperatives by embracing innovation and pivoting from traditional technologies to sustainable clean energy solutions. Thirdly and finally, we will champion green hydrogen through a comprehensive commercialization strategy that transforms our renewable assets and PGMs into engines of economic growth and job creation. This will be founded on an industrial policy framework that requires the appropriate partnerships between the state and industry, with policies that are designed to support industry as it seeks to navigate this global complex market. We must face the future with confidence and in a spirit of partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Are you comfortable there? If you're comfortable there, Minister, the way I stay safe in this country is I get the questions from the audience.
Yeah.
I hide behind them when I put them to you. You understand the game I'm playing here. No? So I'm safe because this comes from anonymous. Okay. Now, Minister, we had a conversation this morning about tariffs and new tariffs. And the assumption I had until now was that the tariffs that was announced will apply to minerals from South Africa, including PGMs. The question is, this announcement relating to South Africa mentioned certain exclusions, including for minerals not available in the US. Will this include PGMs? Do you know more?
Well, we don't have a full confirmation. I've listed a list of some of those included, but we don't have full confirmation of the exclusions. There are critical minerals that we know the US has a particular interest in and would consciously exclude. And we have to plan in such a way that we factor that reality into account.
There's an answer. See,
so they bring in the list immediately straight to me. In fact, it's possibly the same list, which is those excluded would include manganese, uranium, chrome, coal, and fluorspar.
So not PGMs. PGMs are not excluded.
Not PGMs at this stage, but I'm still waiting for confirmation.
Yeah, no, thank you. Minister, you talk about pit to port and conversations with the Europeans that we don't repeat that. In Cape Town, Minister Mantasi came across again as beneficiation is the duty of miners. I suggested that you cannot bully mining companies into this in-between space, beneficiation. Clearly, as a country, we do not want to export only ore. We want to beneficiate. But isn't that your department's space? Aren't you failing the country from a policy point of... I mean, Minister Mantas can bully, but mining companies aren't beneficiating. What is missing? What are we missing here, Minister?
So it's a collective effort. And I made the example earlier about chrome and ferrochrome. To say primarily it's an initiative that's been driven at the level of minerals and petroleum, but we've more recently adopted a collective approach to dealing with the challenges in the ferrochrome sector. And part of those challenges relate to logistics, they relate to the price and access to energy, and they relate to the way in which we've structured our tariff system. So we require the involvement of multiple departments and ministries. When I spoke about the task team earlier, I was referring to a team that constitutes trade and industry, Minister of Finance, Minister of Minerals and Petroleum, and Minister of Energy and Electricity. And we've said, let's work with industry to find a comprehensive set of solutions. The second point related to the issue you're raising is, of course, it is possibly a correct argument to say miners are not in themselves industrialists. So you need to create an appropriate platform to ensure that their product reaches the industrialists at the best possible cost, yet at the best possible price to them. And that's where we need to close the gap between ourselves and minerals and petroleum. I should say that in our more recent discussions, that gap is closing. But if you allow me to report to the president first before we make the announcement.
I will just get you quoted as saying Mantas is finally playing ball or something like that. I'll do that.
Well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I want to take a little bit of time to go to the metal problem. I mean, it's not long ago that the DTIC was very in favor of a process that the company I was at the time, we took the then ISCOR to the Competition Commission about excess pricing. Today, they need barriers to exist. They need tariffs. So I want to understand this trade paradox. So we export iron ore, we import the steel, and ISCOR, or whatever they call today, metal, cannot survive. What has gone wrong here, Minister? I mean, how do we fix this From 20 years ago, they were extorting the South African industry through excessive pricing, not my finding, that of the Competition Commission. To today, you have to bail them out with 1.6 billion, and is that sustainable? What is going wrong in our manufacturing sector, Minister?
So there are a number of issues. The first is, I think, to adapt the policy environment to global developments and to our own domestic challenges. And this is an agreement we have with industry that, in fact, we need to evolve our policy in the steel sector to adapt to the reality that we're facing. And that's work that we're committed to do and to report back to industry and the country in the next few months. So there are policy issues that require attention. And then there are issues with regards to the ability to attract investment in evolving technologies, the ability to ensure that newer technologies are able to be invested in the country to increase our competitiveness. And that would also involve issues of market structure that you need to engage with. And thirdly, there are issues around tariff setting and incentives that have impacted the industry. So, for example, through the preferential pricing system, we've incentivized the development of mini mills and essentially milling at the back of scrap. And how do we transition that environment to create a balanced situation where, yes, you do not necessarily disincentivize the building of mini mills, but at the same time, ensure that you're able to beneficiate your ore, because that's also critical. It's also critical downstream to the extent that you're able to ensure that high quality steel is provided, long steel is provided to industry downstream. So it's a comprehensive change in the environment that we need to look at. And we've, for example, taken decisions, amongst others, to direct that the International Trade Administration Commission, ITEC, undertakes an investigation into the preferential pricing system in the steel sector. We're looking at safeguard measures with the Minister of Finance, but we're also looking at, in the intermediary period between the facility that we have created for ArcelorMittal, how do we secure our long steel capability as a country? And this we have to do within the context of our country, but also within the context of global developments, where steel has become one of the critical trading dispute points internationally. How do you position yourself as a country in this regard? And for us, it is important that we maintain long steel capability. How it manifests after 6 months, I think, is a matter that we're going to have to apply our minds to. We're engaging with Mittal. We're equally engaging with CIFSA to say the solution is not just a solution for Mittal, it is a solution for long steel. And every time we try and communicate the point that we are solving for long steel, and the primary producer of quality long steel is ArcelorMittal. And in the period between now and the 6 months that we have bought, if you like, how do we solve for that problem? Because if you lose your competitiveness in that regard, you might as well give up on your long steel capability going forward.
Minister, and similarly, I suppose your comments on the ferrochrome business, but the problem is not only ferrochrome, it's ferromanganese. It is that whole sector of midstream beneficiation. And I mean, when I try and read up on this, obviously we need smart trade policies, but we need infrastructure and we need sustainable and affordable power. Are we living in hope and dying in despair here? Are we going to get cheap, sustainable electricity in our lifetimes? Now, you're younger than me, in your lifetime. Are we just ever going to have Eskom at 12% increases and celebrate them for not getting 35%?
Okay. I'm looking at my team, and I think they are also equally anxious. And I'm saying this because, essentially, if we are to resolve the cost of energy problem, it's not going to be resolved through ESCOM or through the IPPs. You require different fiscal instruments to deal with what's an industrial scale problem. And that requires a different approach to how you invest in dealing with an industrial issue. So the issues that we're asking ourselves are, how do you invest in your industrial capability, taking into account that by saying to ESCOM, drop by 30%, 40%, makes them less capable, less financially sustainable, etc. So you don't want to increase ESCOM's problems. So let's not dump the problem with ESCOM. Let the problem be that of the state and the need for the state to find solutions to the cost of energy. And that could include different fiscal instruments that we need to deploy. And I've tried to be as diplomatic as possible.
I can honestly say I don't understand a word, but I live in hope, because if we don't fix that, we can really just all work in banks and cent and shut down our country. Minister, we have run out of time, and you and I are standing between our audience and lunch. When you offered, after me harassing you, to please come to arrange your diary, I said to my team, there's no way he can be at 12. Let's put him in at 12:15. You made it with seconds to go. We really appreciate it. This is a conversation that we must have with you in the room and your team. So thank you very much for joining us. I am seeing a list circulated by James Wellstead that says platinum in many forms are excluded from the tariffs, but in a day we will know. So there seems to be significant uncertainty as you flagged. We don't know yet. I think tariffs is our, trade wars is our future. You guys go sort out this GNU stuff, really. It's not time to be childish, Minister. Let's have a government that can approve a flippant budget so that we can focus on the things at hand. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We miss you in Joburg, but hey, you do a better job now, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.